There's a moment in a man's life, not always dramatic, but always irreversible, when something clicks. He realizes he's been too available. Not just emotionally or physically, but spiritually. He's poured himself into relationships, given endlessly, and molded himself to be desirable, wanted, needed. And one day, he stops. This isn't about going cold or becoming distant. It's about reclaiming sovereignty. Carl Jung called this the process of individuation, the journey of becoming who you truly are, apart from what others demand of you. And when a man begins this journey, especially when he stops centering women in his identity, everything changes. Jung believed every man carries an unconscious image of the feminine within him. He called it the Anima. When this Anima is immature, the man becomes obsessed with women. He chases her approval, her affection, her mystery. He projects everything sacred, creative, and meaningful onto her. But when the Anima is integrated, when he stops projecting and starts owning his inner world, the man no longer needs to chase. He becomes whole. That's the moment women feel it. Something shifts in the energy. He's no longer orbiting around her. And she notices, deeply. When a man stops being available to women in the way society has conditioned him, constantly pleasing, proving, or performing, he breaks a powerful spell. He's no longer a puppet of desire. He's no longer addicted to validation. He's rooted. And that kind of man? He becomes magnetic. Not because he's trying to attract, but because he's embodying something rare, presence without need. In a world full of men chasing approval, the man who has stepped back stands out. Women may be confused by it at first, but they're drawn in. This withdrawal of availability is not rejection. It's transformation. It doesn't mean a man cuts off love or connection, quite the opposite. He becomes more capable of authentic love because he's not loving from lack. Carl Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And a man cannot do that if his identity is built around being good enough for a woman. He must be good enough for himself first, and from there, choose who he loves, not who he needs." So what really happens when men stop being emotionally available in the wrong ways? Women feel it. The emotional game they were used to playing suddenly ends. The endless texting, the power plays, the testing, it doesn't land anymore. The man has withdrawn not out of spite, but out of clarity. And women who are also mature, also evolving, respect that shift. They feel safer around a man who isn't performing, who isn't hungry for their approval. They lean in, not because he demands it, but because they trust his depth. But this kind of man is rare. Why? Because the world trains boys to be needed, not to be whole. From childhood, many men are told their worth comes from what they can give: money, protection, attention, obedience. And when that giving isn't returned, they're told to give more. Jungian psychology flips that script. It teaches that real power comes from integration, when a man no longer abandons parts of himself to please others. He can still love, still give, but not at the cost of his essence. That's what makes him dangerous. In the best way. When men collectively stop being overavailable to women, something bigger happens. Relationships change. Society shifts. Suddenly, we don't have women chasing emotionally absent men, and men chasing emotionally unavailable women. We have adults. Two whole people choosing one another without addiction or game. This doesn't mean relationships become easy, but they become real. The feminine no longer feels the need to test. The masculine no longer fears abandonment. There's space for truth, and from truth, real intimacy can grow. Jung warned that when a man resists this path, when he refuses to stop overgiving, overchasing, overexplaining, he risks becoming what he feared: hollow, resentful, disconnected. But when he dares to withdraw, not from love, but from neediness, he awakens something ancient inside him. He steps into archetypal masculinity. Not the macho kind, the grounded kind. The king who doesn't beg. The warrior who doesn't posture. The lover who chooses, but doesn't cling. That's what the world is missing. And that's what is slowly, quietly, returning. So if you're a man watching this, you don't need to disappear. But you do need to return to yourself. Stop being available to women in the ways that shrink your soul. Be present, but not performative. Be kind, but not compliant. Be whole, not half. And if you're a woman watching this, understand that when a man withdraws to grow, it's not rejection, it's resurrection. It's the making of a man who can meet you with presence, not performance. And in that space, something sacred can finally begin.